Hi students, good evening to all of you and welcome to my channel. Students, today's topic is extra embryonic membrane. So it is part of that human development. As I have already discussed in my session 1 of that human development about that implantation, then it is the part 2 of that human development. As you know students, after implantation, the embryo is called as fetus. And the implantation that occurs in case of a human being, it is interstitial implantation. As the fertilized egg is completely buried within the wall of uterus. That is why it is called as interstitial implantation. So students, after implantation, the growing embryo is called as fetus. The embryo itself having membrane, or besides that embryo proper, the blastoderm give rise to some additional membranes or structures which is necessarily required for further development of that embryo, of that fetus. And besides that embryo proper, the additional membranes that are present outside the embryo, they are called as extra embryonic membrane or foetal membrane. So the extra embryonic membranes are found in the name of chorion, amnion, yolk sac and allantois. So these are the 4 extra embryonic membranes that are formed besides that embryo proper, which help in development of that embryo and also protect the embryo from any external shocks or injuries during pregnancy. So students, first of all, the first extra embryonic membrane, that is chorion. The first extra embryonic membrane, that is chorion. So here is the diagram of that extra embryonic membranes that surrounds the embryo externally and protect it, as also it help in development. So the embryo, along with that additional membranes, it is externally covered by a membrane that is called as chorion. So here in this picture, in this diagram, this is chorion. And this chorion is formed of outer ectoderm and inner mesoderm. So chorion is formed of outer ectoderm and inner mesoderm. That ectoderm is derived from that trophoblast and somatopleuric mesoderm is there. So by the fusion of these two layers, the outer ectoderm and inner mesoderm, they combinedly form that chorion. So it forms that chorion, and it is the outermost extra embryonic membrane which protect the embryo as well as other additional membranes that present in it. And students, this chorion also help in formation of placenta along with that allantois. So it help in formation of placenta along with allantois. Hence, human placenta is called as chorioallantoic placenta. So it helps in formation of placenta. Which structure? That is chorion. Outermost layer of extra embryonic membrane formed of outer ectoderm and inner mesoderm, and this structure protect the embryo as well as other additional membranes, and its function is it help in formation of a placenta along with that allantois. Hence human placenta is called as chorioallantoic placenta or allantoic chorial placenta. So students, the next embryonic membrane is amnion. The next embryonic membrane is amnion. It is the extra embryonic membrane that encloses the embryo. Here this is embryo and it is enclosed by an additional membrane that is called as amnion, and that amnion is formed of outer mesoderm and inner ectoderm. So here the outer one is mesoderm and inner one is ectoderm. As I have already told you that chorion is formed of outer ectoderm, inner mesoderm. But in case of that amnion, it is formed of outer mesoderm and inner ectoderm. So it is formed that extra embryonic membrane which encloses the embryo, that is amnion, and there is a cavity formed in between that amnion and embryo, that is called as amniotic cavity. So a cavity is formed in between that embryo and amnion, that is called as amniotic cavity, and that amniotic cavity is filled with a fluid called as amniotic fluid. That fluid is called as amniotic fluid, and amniotic fluid having several functions. Some important functions are carried out by presence of that amniotic fluid. So what are the functions of that amniotic fluid? So students, the first and important function is it prevents the drying of embryo. Drying of embryo. So it prevents from desiccation. You can also tell it, the embryo is prevented from desiccation or drying due to presence of that amniotic fluid. So students, that amniotic fluid is secreted from that embryo proper as well as that extra embryonic membrane amnion. So amniotic fluid is secreted from amnion as well as embryo. So its first function is to prevent desiccation of embryo or drying of that embryo. The second function is it protect embryo. Protect the embryo from external shocks. So it protect the embryo from external shocks. Next function is it prevent the embryo from bacterial infection. It prevent the embryo from bacterial infection. It protect the embryo by absorbing the shocks. If any external shocks that enter into the embryo, it can be absorbed by that fluid present within it, that is amniotic fluid. The next important function of that amniotic fluid, it bring about foetal movement. It bring about movement of that fetus. So by the movement of that fetus, at the time of parturition, the head turns towards the cervix, so it make easy childbirth or easy delivery, normal delivery. So it bring about foetal movement. It bring about foetal movement. these are the functions of that amniotic fluid that present within the amniotic cavity. The next structure, next extra-embryonic membrane is allantois. The next extra-embryonic membrane is allantois. 1 second, students. The next extra-embryonic membrane is allantois. So here is the allantois. It arises from the gut of embryo. This is gut of embryo. And it arises from the gut of embryo, from the primitive alimentary canal of embryo in the form of a small sac-like structure. So that is the allantois, and it is formed of outer mesoderm and inner endoderm. Students, allantois also, along with that chorion, it help in formation of placenta. That is why human placenta is allantochorionic placenta. And also, placenta help in formation of blood vessels of placenta, that association in between fetus and mother, that is called as placenta. So placental blood vessels are also formed from that allantois, and blood cells are also formed. So 1 second, students. The next extra-embryonic membrane, that is called as allantois. It arises from the gut of embryo and formed of outer mesoderm and inner endoderm. It is a small sac-like structure. It helps in formation of a placenta along with that chorion, as well as it also help in formation of blood vessels of a placenta and blood cells. So the next and last extra-embryonic membrane, that is yolk sac. Yolk sac. So students, it is another sac-like structure that arises from the gut of embryo situated near to that of allantois. It is another sac-like structure. Also it arises from the gut of embryo and located nearer to that of allantois. It is formed of outer mesoderm and inner endoderm like that of allantois. As you know, students, human egg is alacethal, or it is devoid of yolk. Yolk is absent in case of human egg. So it is present as an evolutionary process similar to that of reptiles and birds. But according to some embryologists, it is believed that it also helps in formation of blood cells until 6th week of pregnancy or gestation. So it helps in formation of blood cells in that embryo up to 6 weeks of gestation. So students, this is all about that extra-embryonic membrane which help to protect and perform important functions in embryonic development of man. Thank you.